I knew the moment Jessica walked out of my life that things would get messy, but I never imagined she would take me to court over our furniture business. 6 years together building Craftsman's Corner from the ground up, or so I thought. When she suddenly demanded half of everything we had created, I was blindsided. Little did she know that following my lawyer's advice to the letter would lead to consequences she never saw coming. Before I tell you how my ex's lawsuit backfired spectacularly, drop a comment telling me where you're watching from, and hit that subscribe button if you've ever had someone underestimate what you're capable of when pushed too far. I started my custom furniture business when I was 26 years old. As a carpenter who spent years working for someone else, I had dreamed of creating my own pieces that reflected true craftsmanship rather than mass-produced items you find at big-box stores. My small workshop began in my parents' garage with just a few basic tools and a passion for working with wood. I named it Craftsman's Corner, hoping someday it might grow into something meaningful. 4 years into building my small business, I met Jessica at the Riverdale Art Fair. She had a booth selling handmade jewelry, copper wire wrapped into intricate pendants and earrings that caught my eye. What really drew me to her booth was a small display case she had created herself from reclaimed wood. When I complimented her on it, we instantly connected over our shared love of creating things with our hands. "You know I could help you design better displays for your jewelry," I offered after chatting for almost an hour. "And I could help you market your furniture better," she replied, gesturing to my simple business cards. "Your craftsmanship deserves more attention." Our relationship blossomed quickly. Jessica had a marketing degree she had never fully utilized, and she brought a new energy to my business approach. Within 6 months of dating, she started helping me with social media, photography, and client communications. She had an eye for staging furniture in ways that highlighted the craftsmanship, and our online presence grew substantially. By the end of our first year together, Jessica had unofficially joined Craftsman's Corner. She kept her day job at a local advertising agency, but spent evenings and weekends helping me grow the business. We never formalized her role, a decision I would later deeply regret. "We are partners in this," I would tell her when we discussed finances. "Whatever profit comes in after expenses, we split evenly." This verbal agreement seemed sufficient when we were in love. After 2 years of dating, we moved in together, converting a warehouse space into a combined workshop and apartment. The front served as a showroom where clients could view finished pieces. The middle section became my workshop, and we built living quarters in the back. It was the perfect setup for our lifestyle, with Jessica working from home more frequently on our growing business. As orders increased, Jessica eventually left her agency job to work with me full-time. She took over client relations, bookkeeping, and marketing, while I focused on design and craftsmanship. Business doubled, then tripled. We were making a name for ourselves in the custom furniture world, even getting features in several home design magazines. But with success came tension. Jessica began pushing for rapid expansion, hiring additional craftsmen, opening a second location, launching a furniture line for wholesale. I preferred growing more conservatively, maintaining quality over quantity. "Why are you limiting us?" she would ask during increasingly heated discussions. "We could be the next Restoration Hardware if you would just think bigger." I never wanted to be a furniture factory, I would counter. "Each piece should be special, not mass-produced." These philosophical differences about the business created a growing rift between us. I started to notice Jessica becoming more distant, taking business calls in private and scheduling meetings without informing me. Still, I never suspected what was coming. One Tuesday evening, after a particularly large order had been delivered, Jessica sat me down at our dining table, a piece I had crafted for our 3rd anniversary. "Mark, this is not working anymore," she said flatly. "I want out of the relationship and the business." The words hit me like a physical blow. "What do you mean out? We built this together." Her expression hardened in a way I had never seen before. "Exactly. We built it together, which means I deserve half of everything. The business, the equipment, the client list, half is mine." I was stunned into silence, trying to process this sudden change. When I finally found my voice, I asked, "Where's this coming from? If you are unhappy, we can talk about it." "I have talked," she interrupted, "for months. You never listen. So now I am done talking, and I expect my fair share." She had already packed essential belongings and said she would return for the rest. Before walking out, She delivered her parting shot. My father knows a good business attorney. You will be hearing from them soon. The next morning, I called Thomas Bennett, an attorney a fellow craftsman had used during a copyright dispute. When we met, I was still in shock, barely able to form coherent sentences about my situation. Let me get this straight, Thomas said after listening patiently. You two ran this business together for how long? About 4 years, I replied. But the business existed for 2 years before she became involved. And her name is on which business documents exactly? That question stopped me short. Well, none, I guess. I started as a sole proprietorship, and we never changed the legal structure. Thomas nodded thoughtfully. And do you have any written agreements about profit-sharing ownership or her role in the business? No, just verbal agreements. We were a couple, I trusted her. Just then my phone buzzed with a text from Jessica. My lawyer says I am entitled to half the business. Pay up or get sued. I showed Thomas the message, and his expression grew serious. Document everything from this point forward. Every text, email, and conversation. We might need it all. After Jessica moved out, I threw myself into work trying to maintain the business while processing our breakup. But it quickly became apparent that Jessica had been planning her exit strategy for some time. A week after she left, I received calls from 3 regular clients, asking about the new direction Jessica had mentioned to them. Confused, I pressed for details, discovering Jessica had been contacting our clients individually, telling them she would soon be offering improved services through her own venture. Searching our shared office space, I found a notebook hidden behind a filing cabinet, Jessica's personal planner. Inside were detailed lists of what she considered her clients versus his clients, inventory of tools and equipment she planned to claim, and notes about business weaknesses she could exploit. Most disturbing was a to-do list dated 3 months earlier with the header Exit Strategy. When I called our business bank to change the account permissions, the manager informed me that someone had attempted to access the account online the previous day, but failed because they did not have the proper authorization codes. Jessica had never been a signatory on the business accounts, another oversight that now seemed like divine intervention. Mr. Bennett? She has been planning this for months. I told my attorney, showing him photographs of the notebook pages. And look at this. She downloaded our entire client database 2 weeks before leaving. The system logs show she exported all client information, design files, and financial records. Thomas reviewed the evidence grimly. This changes things significantly. This is not just a breakup, this looks like premeditated business interference. The following week, a formal letter arrived from Jessica's attorney, Lawrence Goldstein, demanding 50% of the business valuation, half of all equipment, full access to client records, and ongoing royalties for designs she claimed to have contributed to. They have got to be joking, I said, handing the letter to Thomas during our next meeting. She is demanding royalties for designs she never created. Unfortunately, they are very serious, Thomas replied. But there is good news. As the sole legal owner of the business, you have significant protection here. Let us do some research into exactly what contributions she made versus what she is claiming. We spent the next several days documenting the history of the business. I pulled original business formation documents, proving Craftsman's Corner had been registered solely in my name 6 years earlier. We cataloged equipment purchases, showing most major tools had been acquired before Jessica entered the picture. Most damning of all, Thomas uncovered that Jessica had registered her own business, Modern Design Collective, 3 months before our breakup, while still working with me and accessing my client information. She has been actively competing with your business while still being involved in it, Thomas explained. That is a clear conflict of interest and potentially fraudulent behavior. Meanwhile, Jessica escalated her campaign against me. Mutual friends reported she was telling everyone I had cheated her out of her business, claiming she was the creative force behind our success while I was just the labor. She posted veiled references on social media about partners who steal your ideas and leave you with nothing. The damage to my reputation was immediate. Orders slowed, and several regular clients disappeared. A feature article in a home design magazine was suddenly canceled without explanation. When the actual lawsuit arrived, Jessica's claims had grown even more outlandish. She now claimed to have designed 80% of our furniture pieces, developed our signature joinery technique, which I had actually learned from my grandfather, and built our client base from nothing. Thomas advised filing a countersuit for defamation, unfair business practices, and attempted theft of proprietary information. Her lawsuit is not just without merit. It appears to be malicious prosecution, he explained. If we can prove she knows her claims are false, but is proceeding anyway, that opens up additional legal remedies. We prepared a detailed evidence timeline, showing Jessica's actual contributions versus her claims. We gathered testimonials from suppliers who confirmed I had been the primary business contact years before Jessica appeared. We even recovered deleted emails from our business server, where Jessica had admitted to clients that certain designs were all Mark's work while she handled just the business side. Thomas attempted to negotiate with Jessica's attorney, warning them about the countersuit evidence and offering a reasonable settlement, acknowledging her marketing contributions. The response was immediate and hostile. Jessica wanted her day in court and would accept nothing less than 50% of everything. She believes she has a slam-dunk case, Thomas said after another failed negotiation. She does not realize how much evidence we have showing her claims are fabricated. As the trial date approached, the emotional toll became almost unbearable. Former friends took sides, with most believing Jessica's version she had always been the more sociable, persuasive one of us. My parents worried about the financial strain of the legal battle, offering to mortgage their house to help if needed. We are not going to lose, I promised them, with more confidence than I felt. The truth has to count for something. 2 nights before the trial, I received a text from Jessica. Last chance to settle. 50% now, or I will make sure you lose everything in court. Your choice. I showed Thomas, who added it to our growing file of evidence. This is not someone interested in justice, he observed. This is someone looking to extort you through the legal system. Despite Thomas's reassurances, I barely slept the night before court. Everything I had built over 6 years hung in the balance, threatened by someone I once trusted completely. The courtroom felt suffocating as I sat beside Thomas, watching Jessica and her attorney organize their documents at the opposing table. She wore a conservative navy suit I had never seen before, her usual artistic style replaced by an image of business professionalism. Judge Eleanor Martinez, a stern-looking woman in her 60s with steel-rimmed glasses, called the court to order. Jessica's attorney presented their case, first painting a compelling narrative of a talented woman whose business acumen and design sensibility transformed a struggling carpenter's workshop into a thriving enterprise. Your Honor, Miss Wilson was the driving force behind Craftsman's Corner's success, Lawrence Goldstein argued. Without her marketing expertise, business development skills, and design input, Mr. Mags Davis would still be making cutting boards in his parents' garage. Jessica took the stand with practiced poise, describing how she had built the business from nothing alongside me. She presented carefully selected photographs, showing her at client meetings, arranging showroom displays, and reviewing design sketches. Her testimony made it sound as if I had been merely the hands executing her creative vision. I created our signature aesthetic that made us stand out in the market, she claimed confidently. Mark was skilled with tools, but I brought the artistic direction and business model that made us successful. My stomach tightened with each fabrication. Though Thomas had prepared me for this hearing, Jessica rewrite our history so convincingly was more painful than I had anticipated. I scribbled notes to Thomas, who patted my arm reassuringly. Patience, he whispered. Let her finish building this fictional castle before we bring it down. When Thomas began his cross-examination, his approach was methodical and devastating. Rather than attacking Jessica directly, he walked her through seemingly innocent questions that gradually exposed the contradictions in her testimony. Miss Wilson, when exactly did you first become involved with Craftsman's Corner? He began. From the beginning, she answered confidently. Mark and I built it together. Thomas smiled slightly. I would like to enter into evidence Exhibit A, the business registration for Craftsman's Corner filed 6 years ago, solely under Mark Davis's name, 2 years before you met Mr. Davis at the Riverdale Art Fair. Would you like to revise your statement? Jessica's composure flickered momentarily. Well, I meant the business as it exists today, the successful version. Thomas nodded sympathetically. I understand. Now regarding your claims of designing the furniture pieces, I have here the catalog from Mr. Davis's first showing at the American Craftsman exhibition. These designs, dated 18 months before you met, appear remarkably similar to what you are claiming credit for. Could you explain that? With each document Thomas presented, Jessica's testimony unraveled further. Business formation documents, tax filings, client testimonials, supplier statements, all contradicted her version of events. The judge's expression grew increasingly skeptical as Jessica's answers became defensive and inconsistent. The most damaging evidence came when Thomas presented the notebook we had found. Your Honor, this is Miss Blank, Wilson's personal planner discovered after her departure. I direct your attention to page 47, where Miss Wilson details her exit strategy, including plans to, and I quote, secure key clients before departure and launch competing business using insider knowledge. As Thomas read aloud Jessica's notes about which clients she planned to take with her, her face paled. When he presented evidence of Modern Design Collective's registration 3 months before our breakup, Jessica glanced nervously at her attorney. Miss Wilson Thomas, continued his voice, measured, could you explain to the court why you were establishing a competing business while still working for Mr. Davis and using his client information? Objection. Lawrence Goldstein interjected. Counsel is making assumptions about my client's intentions. I am simply asking Miss Wilson to explain these documents in her own handwriting, Thomas countered calmly. Overruled, Judge Martinez said firmly. The witness will answer the question. Jessica's carefully constructed facade began to crumble. I was protecting myself, she said defensively. I knew Mark would try to keep everything for himself when we eventually parted ways. So you admit you were planning your departure months in advance, while simultaneously copying client information and establishing a competing business. Thomas pressed. I deserved compensation for my contributions. Jessica snapped her composure, finally breaking. He would have given me nothing. The judge frowned at this outburst. Miss Wilson, please restrict your answers to the questions asked. By the time Jessica's testimony concluded, her claims had been systematically dismantled. Her attorney appeared increasingly uncomfortable at one point, requesting a brief recess to consult with his client. When court resumed, Goldstein attempted to withdraw certain claims from their lawsuit, a tacit admission they could not be substantiated. Judge Martinez denied the request, stating all claims would be addressed in her ruling. After 4 grueling days of testimony, including statements from suppliers, clients, and even Jessica's former colleagues at the advertising agency who contradicted her claims of design expertise, Judge Martinez delivered her verdict. Having reviewed all evidence presented, this court finds in favor of the defendant Mark Davis on all counts, she announced firmly. Not only does the court reject the plaintiff's claims to ownership or compensation, but the evidence clearly shows Miss Wilson engaged in inappropriate business conduct, including, but not limited to, misappropriation of proprietary information, client interference, and establishing a competing business while still affiliated with the defendant's company. The judge awarded me full dismissal of Jessica's claims plus damages for business interference, defamation, and legal costs. The financial penalty totaled over $120,000, far more than Jessica could afford to pay. Furthermore, Judge Martinez continued looking directly at Jessica. The court finds the plaintiff's lawsuit was filed with malicious intent, knowing the claims were substantially false. The court will refer this matter to the Bar Association for review of counsel's due diligence in pursuing these claims. Lawrence Goldstein's face reddened at this judicial rebuke, while Jessica sat frozen in apparent shock. As we left the courtroom, Jessica approached me in the hallway, tears streaming down her face. You have ruined me, she hissed. I will never be able to pay this judgment. My career in this industry is over. I looked at the woman I had once loved, feeling a complex mixture of vindication and sadness. No, you did this to yourself, I replied quietly. You chose to lie, cheat, and steal, rather than simply walking away honestly. Thomas guided me toward the exit. It is over, Mark. You won. Completely. The weeks following the court victory were a strange mixture of relief, vindication, and lingering grief. Jessica filed for bankruptcy protection almost immediately, unable to pay the substantial judgment against her. While part of me felt sympathy for her desperate situation, I reminded myself that she had brought it entirely upon herself through deliberate, calculated actions. Rebuilding my business became my focus and therapy. The legal battle had taught me valuable lessons about protecting what I had built. With Thomas's guidance, I restructured Craftsman's Corner as a proper LLC with comprehensive operating agreements, intellectual property protections, and formal contracts for everyone who worked with me. "You will never be vulnerable like that again," Thomas assured me as we finalized the new business structure. Surprisingly, the lawsuit publicity ultimately helped my reputation. Several high-end design magazines ran features on my work, framing the story as an artisan who had defended his craft against corporate exploitation. New clients emerged who appreciated the authenticity and integrity of my approach. I hired 2 apprentice craftsmen and a business manager with formal contracts, clear expectations, and appropriate compensation structures. Delegation did not come easily after my experience with Jessica, but I knew growth required trusting others, just with proper protections in place. 6 months after the trial, I rebranded the business as Authentic Craftworks, signaling both a fresh start and a commitment to integrity in every aspect of my work. Our tagline became "Truth in Craft," a phrase that held deep personal meaning beyond just woodworking. Jessica made several attempts to restart in the furniture design industry under different business names, but her reputation had been severely damaged. Eventually, she approached Thomas with a proposal. If I would waive part of the financial judgment against her, she would relocate to another state and exit the custom furniture industry entirely. After consideration, I agreed. The money was less important to me than moving forward without the constant anxiety of her presence in my professional community. The agreement included a non-compete clause and prohibited her from contacting any of my past or present clients. Looking back, I recognized the warning signs I had ignored in our relationship: her subtle manipulations, her focus on appearances over substance, her willingness to take shortcuts. In business, as in personal relationships, character eventually reveals itself if you pay attention. The most valuable lesson from this painful chapter was learning to protect what matters without becoming cynical. I became more careful with partnerships, but did not stop forming them altogether. I created clear written agreements, but still built relationships based on mutual respect and trust. Healing came gradually through recommitting to my craft. There is something meditative about transforming raw lumber into functional art, about honoring the natural beauty of wood grain, while shaping it into something useful and enduring. My designs became more confident, less concerned with market trends, and more focused on timeless quality. 2 years after the lawsuit, I met Amanda at a legal seminar for small business owners. She was an attorney, specializing in creative businesses, who had heard about my case. After the presentation, she approached me with thoughtful questions about how the experience had changed my approach to business. Our professional relationship evolved into friendship and eventually into something deeper. Unlike my relationship with Jessica, which had blurred professional and personal boundaries from the start, Amanda and I established clear parameters. Her legal practice remained separate from my business, creating healthy space between our work and personal lives. The greatest irony of Jessica's lawsuit was that it ultimately made my business stronger and more successful than it had ever been during our partnership. By trying to take half of what I had built, she had inadvertently forced me to rebuild something far more valuable: a business with proper structure, protection, and purpose. I never spoke to Jessica again after she moved away, but I heard through mutual acquaintances that she eventually found success in corporate marketing far removed from the artisan furniture world. I wished her well from a distance, having let go of both my anger and any lingering attachment. The experience taught me that protecting yourself legally is not just about documents and contracts. It is about recognizing the difference between healthy collaboration and exploitation. It is about understanding that true partnerships, whether business or personal, are built on mutual respect, clear communication, and shared values. I came to realize that forgiveness and letting go are not the same thing. I did not need to forgive Jessica's deliberate actions to free myself from their emotional weight. Sometimes the healthiest response to betrayal is simply to learn from it, set better boundaries, and move forward with greater wisdom. My journey through this legal and emotional battlefield transformed me from someone who avoided conflict to someone who could stand firmly for what was right. The skills I developed documenting everything, communicating clearly, establishing proper boundaries, served me well beyond just business protection. Today, Authentic Craftworks has a waiting list of clients who value not just the quality of our furniture, but the integrity with which we operate. Every piece we create tells a story of craftsmanship, attention to detail, and enduring value qualities that cannot be faked or stolen. Sometimes I wonder if Jessica realizes how her attempt to take what was not hers actually pushed me to create something better than what we had before. There is a certain poetic justice in that outcome that gives me peace. The most important lesson I learned through this ordeal was that our greatest challenges often lead to unexpected growth. What seems like devastation in the moment can become the foundation for something stronger and more authentic than what was lost. What about you? Have you ever had a betrayal or setback that ultimately led you somewhere better? Share your story in the comments below. If this resonated with you, please hit that like button and subscribe to hear more real-life stories of overcoming adversity. And if you know someone struggling with a similar situation, share this video. Sometimes knowing others have walked the same path can make all the difference. Thank you for listening to my journey. And remember, the most beautiful creations often emerge from our most difficult challenges.